Hello, my friends. I'm Tammy Zonker, host of the Intentional Fundraiser podcast. I have some exciting news for all you fundraisers and major gift officers. This October 13th through the 15th, join us for the Modern Institute for Charitable Giving's Major Gifts Fundraising Program. Save your spot today and get 3 days of certified, high impact training packed with cutting edge strategies and time tested wisdom designed to help you scale faster, ask bolder, and raise bigger gifts with confidence. I'll be there leading sessions called Art of the Role Play and Securing the Visit and Making the Ask and Thinking Bigger, Bolder, and Braver. I'll be joined by some of the most accomplished major gift fundraising experts in the sector, like our amazing Dean Doug Dillon, Cherian Koshi, Dr. Russell James, Maya McGill, Jeff Spitko, Birgit Burton-Smith, Ashley Nall, Coach Tivy from Practivated, your AI-powered practice partner for making big asks, plus other incredible leaders in the field. This is your chance to learn directly from the very best. If you've ever struggled with major donor prospects ghosting you, felt anxious making big asks, or wished for more qualified prospects in your pipeline, and so much more, this seminar is for you. You'll get practical, AI-powered tools and proven strategies to help you build confidence, uncover new prospects, and turn maybe later into a six-figure yes. Plus, we'll show you proven ways to keep your donors connected and engaged for the long term. Seating is limited, so don't wait. Learn more and reserve your spot today at modernicg.com. And unlock advanced major gift fundraising training trusted by over 12,000 alumni. Plus, you can earn 15 CFRE points toward your certification. That's modernicg.com. I can't wait to see you there.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to creating a successful fundraising strategy and plan.
People are nervous, right? It's a big deal. We're raising $10 million, even if we're raising $1 or $3 million, depending on the size of the org.
Major gift fundraising is not deadline driven. It really is probably the only type of fundraising, along with planned giving, that is not deadline driven.
AI comes on the scene that's affordable, accessible, that can provide insights and personalization at scale.
That's the first core element of this fundraising engine or funnel, is making sure that the top of your funnel, the beginning of your fundraising process, you are in front of the right people.
What do the people we serve need? And how do we open the door to help them get there?
What happens a lot of times is we get this discomfort or this fear, and our brain tells our body to stop.
We can acquire donors and we can automate everything. And that's where I worry, at least personally, around the perils of AI, that it would remove humans from the interaction.
This is the Intentional Fundraiser podcast.
Picture this. You're sitting across from a donor who's given faithfully to your organization for 5 years. They lean forward and say, "You know what? I'm done with feeling like just a checkbook. I want to be part of something bigger." And then they walk away. Sound familiar? Here's the thing. This scenario is playing out in nonprofit offices across the country right now. We're in the middle of what I call a growing fundraising divide, and it's time we stop choosing sides and start building bridges. I'm Tammy Zonker, and welcome to the Intentional Fundraiser podcast. For nearly 3 decades, I've been specializing in major gifts, helping organizations collectively raise over $1 billion. But today, I want to talk about something that goes beyond tactics and strategies, something that's reshaping the very foundation of how we think about fundraising. Let me start with a story that literally happened last week. I was consulting with a nonprofit executive director who told me, "Tammy, my board is split. Half want us to focus entirely on our major donors, wine and dine them, make them feel special. The other half thinks we're perpetuating elitism and want us to shift to community-centered approaches. Honestly, I'm losing sleep over this." And here's what I told her, what I'm telling you today. The nonprofit sector is at a crossroads, but we don't have to choose just one path. According to the 2025 State of the Nonprofit Sector Survey, 85% of organizations expect service demand to increase this year. At the same time, 36% ended 2024 with an operating deficit, the highest in 10 years. We're being squeezed from every direction, and the old debates about fundraising approaches are literally dividing us when we need unity most. Think about it like this. Imagine you're a chef in a 5-star restaurant, and half your kitchen staff insists you can only use French cooking techniques, while the other half demands you exclusively use Italian methods. Meanwhile, your dining room is packed with hungry customers waiting to be served. That's where we are right now in the nonprofit sector. But what if I told you there's a third way? What if instead of choosing between donor-centered and community-centered fundraising, we could honor the best of both? This is where human-centered fundraising comes in. It's not about replacing these proven approaches. It's about creating a framework that honors the generosity of donors and the wisdom of communities. It ensures our efforts are both meaningful and inclusive. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in practice. Last month, I worked with an organization that was struggling with this exact tension. Their major donors were traditional philanthropists who expected cultivation events and recognition. Their community partners were saying, "We want to be at the table, not just talked about at the table." Instead of choosing sides, we created a shared impact council, where major donors and community members work together to identify priorities, design programs, and measure success. The result? Their largest donor increased their gift by 37% because they felt more connected to real impact, and their community satisfaction scores went through the roof. Here's the key insight. When we stop seeing donors and communities as separate entities and start seeing them as part of the same human ecosystem, transformation happens. Now, let's get real about what's happening out there right now. The fundraising landscape in 2025 is unlike anything we've seen before. First, donor expectations are changing dramatically. According to recent research, personalization isn't just nice to have anymore. It's essential for breaking through the noise. But here's what's fascinating. While donors want personalized attention, they also want to understand their collective impact alongside others. They want both individual recognition and community belonging. Second, we're seeing what some are calling subscription philanthropy take off. Monthly giving programs are thriving because they appeal to donors who want a simple, budget-friendly way to stay connected to causes they care about. But the most successful programs I'm seeing aren't just about recurring transactions. They're about ongoing relationships. Third, and this is crucial, we're facing what I call the AI authenticity paradox. Organizations are leveraging artificial intelligence to analyze donor behavior and create hyper-personalized communication. That's good, but many nonprofits are worried about losing the human connection that drives true stewardship. The solution? Use AI to enhance human connection, not replace it. So how do we actually build these bridges? Let me share what I call the 3 pillars of human-centered fundraising. The first pillar, shared listening. This means creating intentional spaces where donors and community members can hear each other's stories. I'm not talking about putting them in the same room and hoping for the best. I mean facilitated conversations where a major donor might say, "I never realized that our scholarship program was creating additional stress for students because of the application process." And a community member might respond, "And I never understood how deeply personal giving is for you because of your own educational struggles." One organization I work with holds monthly story circles where donors, staff, and community members share what brought them to the cause. These aren't fundraising events, they're relationship building experiences. And guess what happens? Donors give more because they feel more connected. Community members engage more because they feel seen and heard. Pillar number 2, transparent impact. Traditional donor-centered fundraising focuses on showing donors the impact of their specific gift. Community-centered approaches emphasize collective impact. Human-centered fundraising shows both. How individual generosity contributes to collective change. I worked with a housing nonprofit that started sending what they call impact ecosystem reports. Instead of just saying, your $5,000 helped house 3 families, they show how that gift, combined with community volunteer hours, city funding, and other donations, created a comprehensive support system that addresses not just housing, but employment, education, and health outcomes. And the third pillar, mutual dignity. This is the big one. Every interaction, whether with a $1 million donor or a community member who volunteers, must be grounded in the recognition that every person brings valuable wisdom and resources to the table. Now let's get practical. How do you actually implement this in your organization? Here are 5 strategies I want you to try starting tomorrow. The first strategy is the one-question revolution. Start every donor conversation and every community engagement with this question: what first drew you to this cause? Then truly listen. Don't think about your next question. Don't plan your ask. Just listen. This simple shift immediately signals that you value their perspective, not just their resources. The second strategy is the daily human moment. Commit to one genuinely personal interaction every day. Send a handwritten note to a volunteer. Make a no-agenda phone call to a donor. Share a behind-the-scenes update with a community partner. Remember, human-centered fundraising isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistent acts of attention and care. Strategy number 3 is the story bridge. Instead of keeping donor stories and community impact stories separate, start weaving them together. When you share a success story, include both the generosity that made it possible and the community wisdom that shaped it. Show the full ecosystem of change. The fourth strategy is the feedback loop. Create systematic ways to gather input from both donors and community members about your programs, communications, and priorities. Then, and this is crucial, report back on what you heard and how it's influencing your work. People need to see that their voices matter. And the fifth strategy is the abundance mindset shift. Here's something that might challenge you. Start referring other donors to partner organizations when it makes sense. I know that sounds crazy, but when you demonstrate abundance thinking, it builds trust, and trusted organizations receive more support, not less. Let me tell you about Maria, the executive director of a youth development organization. When I met Maria 2 years ago, she was exhausted. She said, "Tammy, I feel like I'm running 2 separate organizations. My major donor events feel like I'm performing for people who don't really understand our kids. And when I'm in the community, I feel guilty that I'm not out there cultivating more major gifts." Does this sound familiar to anyone? Here's what we did together. First, we identified the core values that drove both her major donors and her community partners. Guess what? They were almost identical. Belief in young people's potential, commitment to equity, and frustration with systems that weren't working. Then we redesigned her cultivation strategy around these shared values. Instead of traditional donor dinners, she started hosting community learning labs where donors and community members worked together on real challenges the organization was facing. At the first session, they tackled the question, how do we measure success in youth development? The major donors brought their business experience and analytical thinking. The community members, including young people and their families, brought lived experience and cultural knowledge. Together, they created an evaluation framework that was both rigorous and culturally responsive. The results? Individual giving increased by 59% over 18 months. But more importantly, Maria told me, I finally feel like I'm running one organization with one mission, supported by one community. Now, I know some of you are thinking, this all sounds nice, Tammy, but I barely have time to steward my current donors, let alone create these elaborate community engagement strategies. I hear you. And here's the truth. You don't have to revolutionize everything overnight. Start small. Pick one donor who you sense wants deeper engagement and invite them to a community event, not as the guest of honor, but as a participant. Pick one community partner and ask them to share their perspective at your next board meeting. Some of you might be thinking, what if my major donors don't want this? What if they just want to write a check and be thanked appropriately? Here's what I've learned. Donors who only want transactional relationships often aren't your most sustainable supporters anyway, and most likely are not your people. But more importantly, most donors are hungry for meaning. Recent research shows that 67% of donors want to understand their collective impact alongside others. They're waiting for us to invite them into something bigger. Let's talk about technology for a minute. AI and digital tools are reshaping fundraising, but they're not replacing human connection. They're creating more opportunities for it. Use your CRM to track not just giving patterns, but engagement preferences. Some donors want to meet community members. Others prefer behind-the-scenes updates. Some community partners want to mentor donors. Others want to focus on program feedback. The technology should make the human connections more intentional, not more automated. I'm seeing organizations use simple tools like shared digital storytelling platforms where donors and community members can post updates, photos, and reflections. It's like a private social network for your organization's ecosystem. So here's what I want you to do this week. I'm calling it the Human-Centered Challenge. On day 1, I want you to identify one donor and one community partner. Write down what you think motivates each of them, not what motivates them to give or volunteer, but what motivated them to care about your cause in the first place. On day 2, reach out to both of them with that one question we talked about. What first drew you to this cause? Listen, take notes, look for common themes. On day 3, find one small way to connect their stories. Maybe it's including a quote from your community partner in your next donor update. Maybe it's sharing your donor's perspective with your community partner. On day 4, I want you to pause and reflect. What did you learn? What surprised you? What made you uncomfortable? Discomfort often signals growth. Then on day 5, plan one action that honors both relationships. This could be an invitation to coffee, a shared volunteer opportunity, or simply a thank you note that acknowledges their unique contribution to your shared mission. Here's what I want you to remember. The debates about donor-centered versus community-centered fundraising aren't really about fundraising. They're about justice, dignity, and how we show up for each other in pursuit of change. Human-centered fundraising doesn't ask you to choose between honoring donors and honoring communities. It asks you to honor the generosity, wisdom, and humanity in both. When we stop seeing fundraising as something we do to people and start seeing it as something we do with people, everything changes. Donors become partners, community members become co-creators, and you become a bridge builder in a world that desperately needs more bridges. The nonprofit sector is at a crossroads, but we don't have to stay there. We can build the road forward together. If today's conversation sparked something for you, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn and share your stories, your challenges, and your breakthroughs. If you want to learn more about my new book, Calling All Heroes, visit callingallheroesbook.com. You'll also find a special offer to join my free 90-minute webinar, How to Implement Human-Centered Fundraising in Your Organization. Thank you for joining me on the Intentional Fundraiser podcast. Keep on transforming your fundraising so you can transform the world.
The Intentional Fundraiser Podcast is a Fundraising Transformed original. I'm Trent Thompson, Executive Producer, CMO, and Head of Community at Fundraising Transformed and the Modern Institute for Charitable Giving. The Intentional Fundraiser Podcast has been recognized by FeedSpot as one of the top 80 fundraising podcasts on the web. This recognition means so much to us, and it wouldn't be possible without your incredible support, encouragement, and thoughtful engagement. Every listen, share, and conversation has helped us grow and reach more passionate fundraisers like you. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to review and rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen. For resources mentioned in this episode and to subscribe to our Scaling Major Gifts newsletter, visit fundraisingtransformed.com.